One is that you have to believe in what you're doing because as doctors, for example, I had already made a career, right? Like I didn't have to become, right? Like my lifestyle was what I wanted it, what I dreamt for. But I believed in this passion and this business idea that I left when my colleagues were like, "You're crazy. Why? Why are you doing this? You know, you're a doctor, you're a doctor." And so believing in that, knowing that people are going to think you shouldn't. And then surrounding yourself, I think just because we're an MD, we kind of have to humble ourselves and who do we have to surround ourselves? What mentors, what things that we don't know? And they always say doctors aren't the best with their money, but you can be, right? You could surround yourself on that. And then reaching out to people to help you. Not everyone's going to be willing to help you because they might see you as a competitor. But like for me, people have opened the doors. People that I never thought would reply back did reply, whether it's through LinkedIn or website. And so seek those opportunities and always keep the prize of like what you want to do.
Hey, I'm Jesse Garza with Premier Leadership Podcast, the place where we have real conversations with real leaders. And today I'm happy to have as my guest Dr. Nestor Rodriguez with Carbon World Health. Nestor, welcome. Thanks for joining me. How are you today?
Doing great. Thank you for inviting me and for the opportunity to be on. So looking forward to it.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining again. I'd love to. I'm looking forward to getting into the things that you're doing with Carbon World Health and just in general with preventive care and lifestyle medicine. But first, would you mind sharing a little bit about your story and what led you on this path?
Yeah, definitely. So, and we're in Madison, Wisconsin, but just to give a little perspective, I was a first generation immigrant from El Salvador, kind of grew up. I moved to Los Angeles, South Central Los Angeles when I was 7, grew up with a single Spanish only speaking mother, did English as a second language studies, was on welfare, and kind of was the first one to go to high school and college in my family. And during that process, I say it more to show people like the lens that I saw in terms of health, and then also the lens or the lack of mentoring as it related to business, right? I had an interest for medicine because I loved biology, mature sister that I saw real hand what doctors could do and the incredible things that, you have a tiny little baby to a full grown, and now she's actually a doctor also. So that's kind of sparked my interest in medicine. I went to Yale for undergraduate, and when I was looking at medical schools, I was a typical LA kid where I'm like, LA exists, maybe New York and everywhere else, I don't care about. Till the med school process started. And at the end of the day, the University of Wisconsin offered me a full scholarship. So given my background, I took it. And kind of the rest has been history in terms of opening doors here and being in the state of Wisconsin. I did emergency medicine as a specialty because I was a type that wanted to, in the airplane, when they asked, is there a doctor here? I wanted to be like, here I am, versus a lot of my colleagues would be like, oh my God, I hope someone else is here. Because I just wanted a little bit of everything, right? And I had a lot of growing up playing sports and soccer in particular, had a lot of interest in sports medicine. And at that time, these tracks to become a sports medicine, fellowship trained doctor didn't exist. So it was kind of like who was interested, what circles were you in, and how can you do it? And so I became chief resident of my residency class. Throughout residency, I sought opportunities to be in the sports world and was granted some of those. Then became the assistant program director for a residency program and did academic medicine for 7.5 years before my wife and I kind of created Carbon World Health. And the reason we did is one, we saw what the downstream effects of not caring about your health, about the healthcare system failing you in the emergency department, right? Or even just the fact that you don't take your own health seriously and what would come, you come see us in the emergency department. So they knew like the experiences I had growing up and how we viewed the emergency department as our only source of medicine. Then we combined, and what I saw was what the athletes get, right? They get the world sent to them, and usually they're young, they're fit, they're pretty healthy, but they still get this mindset of like, what do I need to do to stay in the game, right? Tom Brady being the prime example of like invested in himself, and that's why his career was what his career was, as opposed to other athletes that don't care, party, drink, do whatever, and their careers are shorter. During that same time, there's these executive programs. I'm not sure if you're aware of them or not, but they're literally it's the same doctors at these same academic centers where I will tell you, Jesse, like you should do this A, Y, and Z because of your worth, because of your whether that's financial or your title at job. But then if I saw you the next day as a normal patient, not through an executive program, I'd be like, Jesse, you're fine. Right. So I had an issue with that. My wife had an issue with that. So that's kind of what spurred Carbon World Health 15 years ago, or that idea before wellness was a big thing, where we're like, hey, can we provide this for everyone? Right. One is, can we change people's mindset of preventative health and healthcare? Two, then what is out there that you could optimize? Because I think in my mind, a lot of us normalize suboptimal in health, but we don't do that in finances. We don't do that in our careers, right? We don't do that in our relationships. It's just that health is one of those like, I don't care about. So that's what kind of led us to Live Academics, go private, and create our business, which is a one-stop shop for health, fitness, and beauty, and kind of put it all under one roof.
I love that. Like, and I think I recall on your website coming across where you do tend to focus on entrepreneurs or business owners and their health, like that a lot. And yeah, it's probably a little bit more expensive to deal with health after the fact, after as opposed to the preventive costs, right?
Correct. Yeah, and I always tell people that, right? Because it isn't free or isn't cheap, right? We're a system of, it's pay for play, pay for free of what you get. And what we tell people is, one, because I'm still full time in the hospital, I tell them what is the experience you would get if you saw me at the hospital. And it has nothing to do sometimes with the providers, it has to do with the system, with the insurance. And then our perspective that at the hospital, normal is normal. But, you don't go to financial planners, you don't go to business coaches or any life coach to be told like, hey, you're normal, right? You pay for those services to optimize in those things, but we just don't see that concept in medicine. And so then that's what we do. And we tell people, hey, once you're paying, because people say, I don't want to be on medications, right? And I say it's different. If you're on medications because you have a medical problem, you're on them, right? Like now it's just to curb disease or to prevent it getting worse, versus being on a medication because you want to be, because it's making you better. That's two different things. And even though they're saying they're medications, yeah, but the purpose are different, right? They're tools that are used differently. And that's why I like using a lot of finances, because or people say cheating is getting this hormone or this weight loss medication. And to me, it's not, because if it's that, then listening to a podcast is cheating. Reading a book on professional development is cheating. Getting a coach is cheating. Getting a financial planner is cheating. We just don't look at that way, right? You just want to be able to be held accountable. And then we also tell people, hey, these are the things that you need. And I use a car analogy for that one. Every car, regardless of what car you have, needs brakes, oil, and gas, right? Like we can't argue that. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And so I look and say, okay, these are the things that your gas and your brakes and your tires, whatever those initial things are, they're not the best. So we got to fix. After that, everything that we offer, I make it pretty clear. And they're like, now you're deciding what car you want. No offense to the cars, but like, do you want a Prius? Do you want a Mercedes, or do you want a Lamborghini? That's on you, right? And we all make those choices in life. So it clicks to people, and people are like, well, every other aspect of my life, I'm a Lambo, so I want to be Lambo in my health. Well, here you go. This is what's available to you. And obviously it comes with a cost, but I think investing in yourself like you do in other aspects of your life are worth it.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. What would you say? You've kind of touched on a few things, but what would you say is the thing that sets your practice apart from others like it?
Yeah, so a lot of it is under one roof, right? I think people are starting to do that. But we have, for example, on our fitness side, we have our personal trainers, and we tell people, we treat them like athletes, and we call them athletes. Not that they're athletes, but the idea of like, if you think about that, then you need a coach, right? If Tom Brady needed a coach, we sure as do, right? And even if we played sports back in the day, we'll go into the gym, do the same workout, and then blame the gym for not the results we're getting. And two, then in that gym, we eliminated some of the trigger points or the roadblocks that we have. So, for example, there, you don't schedule. Our trainers are there. You just show up. So that excuse of like, Jesse, you took my spot, I can't work out, are gone. And we tell people, hey, we can, because of the services we have, I can train an elite athlete or someone that just came out of surgery and can't walk. But at the same time, when you're paying for a personal trainer, we're also giving you, if you have hormones, it's included. If you need IVs, it's included. If you need cryo or red light, that's all included. On our wellness side, which we do virtually and nationally, I think what sets us apart is the education. And I always preach this with our providers, in that right now you can go online and order labs. You can go online and get medications. But where it matters is like, how do you translate that to you? right? And even in people in podcasts, right? Like I'll tell people, hey, it's great to listen to a podcast and hear us talk, but I'm not telling you how you translate that to your own self. That's the next step, right? That's going to a place that's like is going to help you with that. And some national companies are doing it well, others are not. And I get it. And business is business. But for us, we're always education. I want you to know why you're on it. So you're never the patient that I see at the hospital that says, you have medical problems? No. Are you on a bunch of medications? Yeah, doc, I'm in a million. There's a disconnect there, right? Like you should know. So for me, it's is it worth it? Is this align with your goals? I got to meet you where you're at and let me educate you about it so you know as much as I do. And I got to spend the time that's there. Then the other thing is just innovating, right? Being able to say, okay, vet things for you, right? Because when you come see me, you have to trust that I am going to treat you like the best version of yourself, but that I'm also going to vet and not make you harm. So I always tell people, I will prove to you that I will make you better with data. I will make you healthier. And if you look good and it's better in the bedroom, then what's the problem? Right. And that's our goal.
Great, great. Do you deal with supplementation at all? Like, I know you mentioned the hormones. Is
We,
supplementation
we
part of
we
that?
do, yeah. So we do from the medical side. So whether it's like weight loss medications, hormones, mental like mapping or mental awareness or performance, a lot of it is to perform your best. And so then we kind of go through the gamut of like, okay, if you're gonna take it orally, what's the good, bad, and ugly of that? If you're gonna take it in an IV, what's the good, bad, and everything in between? So that my go is I'm giving you this huge roadmap, right? And you have to then decide what are you willing to do? And how much are you willing to spend for that roadmap? And then to show you that these are the metrics and to make you think a little bit differently. So I always bring up like body comp, like it always upsets me or disappoints if you have a wellness clinic and they're using old school scales because long are the days of that, right? Like when we look at our body composition, we use the InBody, which is a pretty popular scale out there. But we tell people when you want to change your body, what you're really telling me without telling me is you want to good, look good naked, right? You just don't tell me that. But that's really what you're trying to tell me, whatever that might look to you. And I'm not there to judge whether good or bad. I'm there to prevent you, like protect you from you. But how can I say that, right? A lot of, if I'm just doing the scale, what I want is your muscle mass, your body fat, your hydration, your visceral fat. I want to show to you like how you're getting healthier and what things you can do. And then you realize because you meet with us every 4 weeks, I'm not just leaving and giving you the tools and leaving it to your own to do. It's that you're changing. It's a lot easier to change with a team than me just giving you the medicines, right? And I think a lot of the controversy around wellness facilities right now or preventive care is because of the tools being misused, not the tools. And that's a fault both on the doctor end of stuff, the medical side, but also a fault on the user, right? I always tell people, we always say insanity is doing the wrong thing again, right? And like expecting different results. But I also like flipping the script and saying insanity is also knowing what to do when you're not doing it, right?
Yeah,
And so where are you in that side of things?
that's great. Yeah. So when people work with you, they're not in it alone. It's like a partnership.
Correct, correct. Yeah, we basically come in and everyone's going to come in for one or two reasons, right? Whether it's, hey, I want to lose weight, I want to build muscle, I want to feel younger, I want to have more energy, I want to have better sex, whatever it might be, or I've been ill. The go is that's what you're thinking, that's what you're at. But like for me, it's how can I maximize, achieve those one, two goals, but also give you eight other goals? Because if you're going to do this, you might as well benefit from everything else. And that's what I was saying. Yesterday, I was training one of my providers, and I'm like, look at what they're saying. They're coming in for these two things. But it's our job to show them that I'm going to fix these two things, but I'm also making you healthier. And the healthy part is not necessarily the sexy part that you want, right? You want the whatever you want at the moment. But if I'm accomplishing that goal and making you healthier, then it's great, right? Like, and it's meeting you where you're at, not throwing it to you or just saying you're fine, because then you're going to get frustrated with me. Because obviously you came in for a reason. You're not fine. You want something that you want to improve. And as a provider, I have to take that seriously, whether I agree or disagree. It doesn't mean I have to treat you, but like I have to listen to you. And a lot of the healthcare right now, we're telling you, nope, you don't need it. Nope, you don't. I'm like, that's not the world we live in. Yeah, you don't need a Lambo, but I'm sure if you could afford it and want it, you're going to get it.
Absolutely. Yeah. People want to be heard more than anything. So that's
Correct.
right on. What if, as you've built and scaled your business, what are some current challenges that you're encountering? Maybe
Yeah,
things that
so
haven't
so
gone quite like you expected.
yeah, so for us, at least in particular to our business, is the challenge of of it's good and bad, right? Of telehealth, and then the accessibility of getting these services off the black market or online, right? So kind of having to maneuver how do we scale while we compete with these masses that have tons of money, the hims, hers, things like that on the world. And also then the on kind of vetted pharmacies that are out there or websites that you can get stuff. And so those are kind of the challenges. But the way I look at it goes back to like, okay, why would people come to me? It's the people that come to me are the ones that want a vetted process. They want true results and a team and a partnership with them, knowing that we're going to educate and we're really going to change their life rather than what you could argue are quick fixes or just do it your own. And so if we stay within that lens, that's where we've stayed and that's where we've grown, right? We have four clinics now, or we're about to open our fourth. Our national platform is large. And that's how we get the elite of the elite coming to us because they want that, right? And I think there's a little bit for everyone. And then the other is automations, right? With AI, like I see it both in the hospital, but also in our business. How do we leverage that? I'm a big AI proponent, and it's just how do we do it well? What's to come? And I don't think it's to eliminate me. It's just to make me easier, and then also learn from the client. What do they want ahead of time, so that our time together is more efficient.
Oh, that's great. That's a good segue into one of my other questions because I offer solutions based on AI implementation. Yeah, how do you overall see AI impacting your practice specifically, and then the preventive care realm in general? Any concerns or anything you're excited about?
Yeah, I think the concerns exist. You always have to keep that in mind for the thing. And I think that's where people, when I talk to people that are against it, it's the what if it goes haywire? What if someone uses it for bad? Well, that's like anything in life, right? Like if that's your starting point, life's gonna be rough, right? You got to look at, so for me, for example, from a knowledge misinformation, I still you still need my knowledge, right? You still need my stuff to look at it and vet. And I think I'm knowledgeable enough to where let's say AI tells me something, I'm like, that doesn't quite make sense, where I can then pivot and ask questions or train it differently, right? So that's on one aspect of the knowledge. The other then becomes the excitement is like, what can we do and how do we create it, right? The confusing part is there's so many AI platforms coming out that you're like, where do I go? How do I do? Do I stay one? Think about it back in the day, like a new product came out, you at least had 3 to 5 years where you know you're going to stay, like even keel. But AI is 3 to 5 minutes, right? Like you're constantly trying to do it. And so we've implemented some, but I think our next scaling is from a consumer side. How can we leverage AI so they get the best experience? And then from a business side is how do we automate our training, right? How do we automate our sales process, things like that, where, from my education, it's worked. AI is great at creating these SOPs, these programs, this recording, right? And so we've done that, and coming from education background, like that was something that excited me. Now it's how do I automate the experience, the client experience? How do I get a lot of information? Um, and that's exciting, but it's also then, the question always comes up as business owners, well, how much does it cost, right? Like, is it expensive? Is it not? And to me, I always look at, obviously, if you have all the money in the world, it's easy to say. If you're in the beginning stages, to me, it's what money are you willing to spend to innovate? Versus before, I used to think money is an expense. Now it's like, how do I innovate when I'm spending something? And looking at it through that lens has kind of helped us as a business kind of evaluate AI.
Yeah, that's because as we all know, like it's here. It's not coming. It's already here, and like the best thing to do is engage in it. Like just explore it, take a look at it, have an open mind, and of course, the personal factor, especially in healthcare, is not going to go away. We're always going to need that personal touch.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, in the hospital side, I've heard people speak, and I'm president of our Dane County Medical Society here. And when we brought someone to speak about one, misinformation, but also on how to implement it. And you could tell, right? There's fears, it's generational gaps and what to do. In the emergency department, for example, it's that sense of, can we use AI for a patient to know when to go there or to understand the process that I know you're having the worst day of your life, but someone's dying in the back. Like, what could I do? What kind of information could bring you up so when you see me, we're having the same discussion? Or maybe I'm not the best person to explain a concept. Can I use AI to explain it to you in the terms you want, in the language you want, right? So there's a lot of cool things. You just kind of have to think outside the box. And then it's how do you implement it and how you test it out. Yeah, it's just the fact that you can do it in such a short moment is crazy. Like it would take us months to like even my educational platforms. It'd take me months to a year to write a curriculum. Now I could do it in an hour. So it's taking advantage of those.
It's definitely going to be pretty interesting. It already is actually. But so you probably let me kind of stay on the topic a little bit. With the headlines and the news that we're seeing about healthcare, the cost of healthcare, expected to increase next year based on the new law. How do you see your practice and preventative care fitting into that landscape?
Yeah, so I think healthcare right now is at a crossroads for multiple reasons. Not necessarily, I think when we think healthcare, it's always like blaming the doctors or blaming the nurses or whatever it might be, right? But a couple things have changed in healthcare. What used to be the leadership in healthcare, where it came from an educational background, right? Like the people that were teaching and then took out the leadership roles. Now it's more of a business mindset, right? The CEOs of hospitals aren't medical providers; they're MBA educated people. So we have to come to the table to like look at both ends and kind of help understand each other because I think it's always sometimes you're working in silos. And as a business owner, I had a great relationship with our CEO because I can see both sides, right? And we can have that open conversation of like, okay, are we taking it too much business versus too much healthcare? Like, how do we meet in the middle? So that's one thing, right? Where is this spending money? How can we be efficient with it? The other is the elephant in the room is obviously insurance is dictating what we can and cannot do, right? So because of that, that has helped businesses like us because there's a lot of people that are kind of fed up with the insurance telling them what to do or not to do that they're like where do they turn to, right? And that's good or bad. It's good in that like if you find places like ours, I would say it's good because we're going to guide you through it. It's bad in that where are people turning to, and that's influencers, that's social media, right? That's the like I cringe when whatever you use, right? They're all tools. But like when you say you should use this and you've never asked, I'm like, why should you use it just because you're an influencer? What does that mean? You don't even know their medical health, their meds, and things like that. It's just, hey, this tool is great. Now evaluate if it's good for you, is what the narrative should be, right? And at the same time, with the expenditures, I think providers, we have to step up and be able to say, like, no, I do agree that preventative is more important or as important as treating chronic disease. And we also have to then kind of push back on the system of like, we should do these testings. Why do we have it, right? We have imaging where it's so damn good. And now our thought process is like, we shouldn't use it. Well, what are people doing? They're going to places that you just have to pay, right? And I always go back to that executive program. Well, why is it okay because you're rich and wealthy, but not okay for everyone else, right? It's the economics of it. So we have to address that and change that. But from ours, my whole goal is to change people's mindset of it, right? Like take value of it. What's the point of having all this money if you can't do things with it? You have a nice nursing home at the end, right? Or younger and younger people are dying because of things that they're doing. And who cares that the bank account is big? It's stress or like, right? There's a lot of things that now have to matter. And I've been through those struggles, right? So like I could speak firsthand from them. And that's our goal to change that narrative.
Love that. Love that. I believe that that narrative definitely needs to be changed. There's a gap there. So
Right.
glad to hear that you're doing your best to address that. Uh, you lead a, I'm sure you lead a team. If you got like four, or you're about to have four practices or clinics
Yep.
open, what would you say is the principles, the leadership principles that guide you as you lead those teams?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think if you at the beginning, it was because we're a small business, right? So we always tell people, hey, for us, it is coming in and being teamwork and wanting to grow and expand. When you're a small business, the idea of having all these things already set in stone and plug and play to a system just doesn't exist, right? Because you're learning as you go, you're expanding, and so you have to have the right people around there. We recently did move to like EOS system where it's like a system base, everyone's thinking the same way. And it's been great to try to get everyone to think. I think from a business owner, what I originally kind of had misses, I would say is I mean, medicine's one of the most regimented next to the military careers, right? So we all walk the line and we all know what. We just years of training. So when we come out, we all know what's what. That's not the case in the business world or entrepreneurship or employment world, right? Everyone is coming at it from a different perspective, everyone's knowledge. And prime example, we had a staff meeting where I started talking about KPIs. They were like, what? What are you talking about? And in my mind, I'm like, what do you mean you don't know KPIs, right? And why would a receptionist know a KPI, right? Like, why would a tech know or a trainer like that term? It just doesn't, right? And so we kind of changed the narrative. So for me, I kind of lead by example to lead of surrounding myself with a team, right? I think our business manager is the opposite of me. He's from the military, so he's regimented. He's hardcore. He's like, hey, no excuses. I'm like, well, let's try to give him the benefit of the doubt. My wife's in the middle, and she's like, hey, both of you guys chill out. This is how we're gonna do it. So it's kind of it's surrounding yourself in a great team. But we lead by example. A lot of education is for us, and then it's also showing them where they're at and where we want them to be, and where we want them to be for the right reason, which then pays out for our company.
So you were in the military?
I wasn't. Our business manager is. Yeah, I was just saying in terms of training, right? Medical school, residency, it's just by the time you come out as a doc, you're so regimented, like you know what your role is, what your line is, like and I don't think you have that in other spaces other than in the military where they toe the line, they know what's good, bad, and they know what they have to do without even told. That's the difference where I think we just have to know that as business owners and then know our team and how do we best get the best out of them.
Oh, okay. No, I did. I thought maybe that was something I had missed in your bio
No,
because
no, 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 yeah, no. I thought about it early on and then I was wanting to be or thought about Navy SEAL and I thought it was cool, it was amazing. And then there was a program at the Naval Academy that they offered like what they saw talented high school kids, but it was like waking up at 4 a.m. to box, then run, and I was like, yeah, it's not me. And or like you can't have a radio for 2 years. I was like, yeah, I'm not willing to do that. So that was to the extent. So now I just live vicariously to movies and friends who are in the military.
oh, that's great, great. Touching back on what you said though about the KPIs and then the receptionist and techs not knowing what that is. You'd probably agree that part of our responsibility as leaders is to educate, right? So that's where we kind of like get down with them and like kind of like show them the ropes there, kind of explain, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing that I even in the hospital, right, where it's I think we forget where we're at or where we came from and the tools that were available to us or the mentors that were available to us. And when you're so busy doing your own thing, you want to turn the key and want them to be their best version of themselves right off the gate, and it's not, right? And that's the same thing we talk to our clients where it's like, it's okay. Like you're here. I'm going to take you there. And I know you want it overnight, but just bear with me and we're going to do it and keep reevaluating. And so I have to constantly like remind myself that, right? Because I'm the type of guy that like, hey, we're talking, but I have 10 things in my head that's like, I want to create X, Y, Z. And it's like, wait, hold on. Be cognizant where you're at the moment, and then pour back to them and try to understand why they did the miss. Obviously, eventually if they're not getting it, then it might not be their cup of tea or their profession and you have to do with. But a lot of times it's us as leaders not giving enough time or correcting the systems or implemented the correct things. Where I think time is a big issue, right? Because we're so busy. So, I used to think back in the day when people said just get an assistant, I'd be like, yeah, but you have to have the money to get an assistant. Like what are you talking about, right? Now you do AI assistant, you get like right there's a lot of cool things that you can do. And yeah, that's where AI again kind of comes back in and is a helpful tool to get your time back.
Yeah, definitely. So looking ahead a little bit, what benchmarks and goals would you like to achieve within the next 3 to 12 months?
Yeah, so for us, it's, because it's towards the end of the year, right? It's how do we automate things more for 2026? How do we then, whether that's education, whether that's experience, which I think is just gonna, generate more income, generate more profit, things like that. But really looking at it from that lens of, okay, what are the things that should be automated? And it's like, why are we wasting our time doing it? And spend the time, if we look at it through that lens, and then what is our next innovation? So for us, it's really we're bringing the first robotic AI generated massage. therapy. I don't know if you heard it. It's airspace. That's why Tom Brady's in my head because he just signed as their chief innovative officer, which is a brilliant marketing partnership. But now it's so bringing that or innovating. What other service can I bring to our clients? That's cutting edge. That's cool. And how do we want to do it? So that's what we're concentrating on.
Very exciting. Very exciting. So we're almost done, but just real quick, last one is what advice would you give to any physicians or providers looking to follow in your footsteps or open a similar type practice?
Yeah, so one is know that there's going to be competition, right? But there's always going to be competition. One is you have to believe in what you're doing because as doctors, for example, I had already made a career, right? Like I didn't have to become, right? Like my lifestyle was what I wanted it, what I dreamt for. But I believed in this passion in this business idea that I left when my colleagues were like, "You're crazy. Why? Why are you doing this? You know, you're a doctor, you're a doctor." And so believing in that, knowing that people are going to think you shouldn't. And then surrounding yourself, I think just because we're an MD, we kind of have to humble ourselves and who do we have to surround ourselves? What mentors, what things that we don't know? And they always say doctors aren't the best with their money, but you can be, right? You could surround yourself on that. And then reaching out to people to help you. Not everyone's going to be willing to help you because they might see you as a competitor. But like for me, people have opened the doors. People that I never thought would reply back did reply, whether it's through LinkedIn or website. And so seek those opportunities and always keep the prize of like what you want to do. One of the things that we did implement that we were working on, even with my wife, relationship wise or faith wise, is like what reverse engineering what you want to do, right? It's what do I see myself in a year? Like, how do I have to get there? What are the things I have to do versus I just want to do it. Well, I hope I get there. So that's probably what the advice I would say.
Very nice. Sounds like you had a mission and you like focused on it and shut out the outside noise and pursued it. So that's really great. Well, where can people find you if they want to reach out or learn more, Nestor?
Yeah, so through our website, so www.carbonworldhealth.com, through our contact, just obviously mention the podcast and we waive if it's a consult fee, if they want to see about their health and their best performance, I'll waive the consult fee if they mention your podcast. But if they also want to reach out just for advice and we do consulting services, whether it's small just building an idea or how do you implement some of the stuff we do. I think there's, like I said, there's so many people that need this that we want more people in the space. And then through my LinkedIn also, and they can reach out to me. And then whether that's again just advice or speaking, I'm back on my wife now letting me travel again and speaking. So that's been something that people have used, whether it's for their corporate programs, whether it's just to invite for conferences. I love given this different mindset of people and how it's easy to change and become the best version of yourself if you want to.
Perfect. I'll be sure to have that information in the show notes and description.
Perfect. Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me, and hopefully, obviously, the listeners gain some nuggets and inspired and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely appreciate you joining again. It's been a great conversation, a lot of insight gained. So yeah, everybody, Dr. Nestor Rodriguez with Carbon World Health. All right. Well, thank you.
Okay.